trying new camera angles today. Today's recipe is a hot and sour soup done in the Instant Pot. It doesn't have to be in the Instant Pot. This recipe does say for the Instant Pot, but you can just cook it longer in a regular pot. So it doesn't have to be in the Instant Pot if you don't have one or don't want to use one. Regardless, the recipe is fabulous, and in fact, actually, it's a special request from my wife. So, first thing that we need to do, it calls for shiitake mushrooms. I don't care for shiitakes, so I'm going to be using cremini mushrooms. And if you don't know, creminis are the babies of portobellos. So cremini mushrooms just grow up to be portobello mushrooms. I prefer the flavor of creminis. In addition, the recipe calls for tofu. I really don't like tofu. I've tried the recipe with it, but instead I'm going to be using chicken thighs. Now, in the past I've used chicken breast, but tonight I'm going to try chicken thighs. We're going to start by cutting up some of the mushrooms, what I have available. My wife really likes mushrooms, so I've got quite a few large ones here, seven large mushrooms to cut up. Now, you'll notice the knife I'm using has little dimples in it. That's called a Granton edge. That's to help prevent the food from actually sticking to the blade as you're cutting it. So the food will just come off very easily. Now, I find mushrooms to be quite fun to cut. And you'll notice I took the stems out. You don't have to take the stems out, but it is going to make cutting a little easier. So as before, keep your fingers tucked back. Use your knuckles as your guide. And with mushrooms, it's easy. You can go fairly quickly if you've got a reasonably sharp knife. So it calls for half a cup of bamboo shoots. I'm just going to use an entire tin, an 8-ounce tin. The recipe calls for 3 cups of chicken broth, so I'm going to have 3 cups of water and then use the Knorr chicken broth mix. The instructions with the Knorr are 1 teaspoon into 1 cup of water. So this is 1 rounded teaspoon into 1 cup of water, so I want 3 of those. So the recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. I'm using Golden Mountain. It's probably the best one that we've been able to find. And 2 tablespoons of rice wine vinegar or rice vinegar. 2 2 teaspoons of sesame oil. I'm using the President's Choice. And I'm using a spicy stir-fry oil from President's Choice as well. And if you want it a little spicier, put in a little more. If you don't want it as spicy, put in a little less. But it is hot and sour soup. Now, that's the base of the soup. And now we would typically add in the tofu, if you prefer tofu. Like I said, I don't care for tofu, so I'm going to do chicken. And I have chicken thighs, but I'm going to leave the skin off. Now, the bone is still in these, so I'm going to take the bone out as well. So once you've got the skin and the bones off, unless of course you're using skinless, boneless to begin with, then you want to cut it up into smaller pieces, okay, more bite size for inside the soup. So, and then once that's done, then into the soup it goes. Take that and we stir that all up. Now, if you're just doing tofu, then you don't need to cook it as long. 5 minutes is sufficient. But because we have raw chicken in there, we're going to put it on for 15 minutes. So the soup is finished cooking and the pressure has been released. There it is. Like my Facebook page and follow me on Instagram, This Old Guy Cooks, and subscribe and provide your feedback on YouTube.